Good morning and aloha. Welcome to Just Talking 24, page 81. This week's going to be a little bit different. You guys know that, I try to get out as often as I can. But with the duties of a caregiver, those times are very sporadic and very fleeting. So when I do get them out, I relish them. And I was at Sam's Club the other day, and I saw a retired police officer. I had known him from, we go back to the 70s. And so I grabbed a soda, we sat down, we were talking. And for the sake of this son, I'll call him Sam. Okay, that's not his real name, but he knows who he is. And, when you talk to ex policemen and they know you from the department, they're going to, what they're going to talk about, right? And we were talking about the state of the profession, police officer. When back in the 70s, see, my experience is with the 70s. Okay, and people go, wow, it's 50 years ago. But the Constitution hasn't changed. For the most part, HRS or Hawaii Revised Statutes haven't changed. City and county ordinances, traffic and criminal, they really haven't changed. So why would you think that police work should change? And the only reason why it's changed is because of the courts. Yeah. And when back in the 70s, when I was involved with the police department I was a writer. Okay, now you guys think that the guy just gets in the car and rides around. Okay, normally yes. I went a little bit further than that. I got to know the policemen, the fellow officers. I considered myself a fellow officer, even though I wasn't deputized. I was allowed a lot of leeway in things that I could do, because I guess I proved my competency and that I wouldn't be stupid. But anyway, because of that, the policemen, they took me like a fellow officer. In fact, that's our talk. When I saw Sam, and so he was saying, back in the day, funny, when you get old, you start sounding like your grandparents. Back in the day, I remember walking 12 miles to school. Yeah, but back in the day, the police classes, the recruitment classes, you had 135, 150 in a class. My nephew, well, my wife's sister's child, nephew, he just graduated about, maybe 18 months ago. He had 9. And that's what I told him. I said, oh, yeah, you know, Kind's nephew just graduated from class. He's at the Kapolei station. But yeah, his class had 9 people. He goes, 9? I go, yeah. Which is really funny because this year they expect 400 policemen to go out, and they expect like 130 to come in. Do the numbers, folks. The police force is dwindling down. We just installed a new police chief. Came from San Francisco, and we're talking about that too. He says, San Francisco, look at the state that city is in, and we got the police chief from there. I told him, well, it's just like, and my favorite peeve was the FTO program. There was an MPO 9, which is the senior man in the sector, and he would be the one training the new kids come in, so the new kids learn. All he's the chief screw up. They're gonna learn the screw up ways. This guy talks the talk. Really, he talks well. Even his talk is kind of liberal, but he talks the talk. I would have rather see them recruit from within. But then what comes to the top, right? It's not the creme de la creme, believe me. But anyway, we'll see what he does. We'll see what he's talking. He goes out, went out there, spent a weekend with the troops, you know, in the trenches. Takes you longer than a weekend, folks, believe me. But anyway, we were talking about the state of police work. And, back in the 70s, it was different, way different. We were just coming, America was changing. We had the 60s. The 60s was the decade, excuse me, the decade of revolt, the protests and all that kind of stuff. And the liberals were really taking over. And we started to get some of that, the kickback. I watch YouTube all the time. Shoplifters, just put in shoplifters get arrested. These people, they're unbelievable. What they think they can do. They know their rights. You can't touch me. You can't arrest minors. You can't, I need a female to search me. Believe me. That kind of stuff really just blows, it just, but that's what, and they believe it. That's the part. They believe it. If they don't, they're damn good actors. They should be signed up for actors. These people, why are you arresting me? And they tell them obstruction. I didn't hit nobody. And we were talking about that, and he was cracking up. He goes, "That's right. How many times I see? They don't even know what the words mean. Obstruction, resistance. But he said that's the way it is. He said he wouldn't be a policeman today, and this guy had, I think, over 30 years with the department. And he said he would never take that job today. And that was true because when I was talking to a lot of these guys, quite a few told me, you don't want to be policemen. Because they saw, they had like maybe 5, 6 years under their belt already. And they saw the changing coming. And they saw how I was. And I'm fair, okay? I'm not impartial. Well, I am impartial, sorry. I am not biased. I don't care if you black, white, purple with yellow spots going down your back. I'm going to treat you all the same, like how I want to be treated. And if you act up, if I acted up, I would have, when I was growing up, I remember I used to go to the pool halls. And in those days, there was the nickel machines that we used to play. Well, for one thing, they're illegal because they're gambling. For another thing, you have to be 8. That's the part that used to crack me up. You have to be 18 to play on illegal machine. It's almost as stupid as, hey, we need a sterilized needle to kill this guy, to give him his lethal injection. But anyway, that's the way it was. And different pool halls, it depends on how well they were, quote unquote, protected. That's where the machines were. Some of these machines was in a back room. You had to go through a door. Some you go just go through a walkway, and you get all the machines are totally visible from outside. And some places the machines was all over the place. It depending on who paid what and who paid who and who knew who. That was how Hawaii used to be. And I would play these machines, and one time I was playing the machines, and Vice made a raid, okay? And one of the Vice officers, he knew my uncle. And he grabbed the back of my neck, and he picked, and, I was like, almost 400 pounds. Brother was so strong, he picked me up off that chair. He said, "What you doing over here? You're supposed to be in school." Bah! And he cracked me in the head. He gave me cracks. Why? That wasn't police brutality. That was because that's the discipline that I deserved. It was way different back then. People respected. I grew up waving at the policemen going by the house, and they waved back. I knew them. When I was in the 7th grade, I was in the school across the valley, and we were in the parking lot. It was like, maybe 10 o'clock at night or so. And my friend was teaching me how to drive. He had a 61 Falcon, and that Falcon had a choke. And you pull the choke, and the choke would bring up enrich in the mixture of the fuel, and your RPM would come up a little bit, so you wouldn't have to push the gas. You just gotta play with the brake, and that's how he taught me. And we went around one of the parking lots, and then we went down to the next parking lot, and was going back and forth, figure eights like. And then here comes Bobby Lovell, Officer Lovell. He comes down, and I stop. Get out of the car, get out of the car. He goes, "What you doing?" I said, "Learning how to drive." He goes, "And there are no other cars. This place is totally open." He just said, "Okay, well, just keep this." He said, "How you learning how?" So I showed him how. And the person who was teaching me was the son of a policeman. And he knew that too, right? And so he just said, "Don't hit nothing, be careful." And then he left. Because we all knew who he was. He knew us. He knew us by name. That's how it is. You grew up in that community, and they had that community. And whether it be Hiram Bell, or it be Bobby Lovell, or it be Dave Rodriguez, whatever, their names, we knew who the officers were. And that's how it was growing up. And other policemen came up. They were in the red and whites. They were, what we call rookies. And we wave, and they wave back. It was I respected. I was taught to respect policemen. You respect the sorry again, my dentures. But you respect policemen, you respect firemen, you respect people. You give them the first respect. If they don't give you respect back, okay. Don't say I didn't try. But that's the way it was. And and I was telling him, and he goes, "Yeah, that's the way we used to grow up. When we used to tell you stop, they stopped. Unless they were drunk and disorderly, then, all bets are off." I mean, I remember one case, this Samoan guy, we got over there, and Sam and another kid, forget who he was, but they were each latched onto the Samoan guy's arms, and the Samoan guy was swinging them around like paper mache, like piñatas. And when we saw that, I looked at one of the officers, and I just reacted. And I ran, and I crossbody blocked him at his chest. And we slowly went down. Boom. Once he was down, I used wrestling moves. You keep leverage. And we had him down. And then they threw a jacket over his head. I told him, calm down. And then I got off him, and he calmed down. And then we removed the jacket, and then we sat him up. Then we talked to him, and he had domestic problems. I remember that was a domestic one. But yeah, that's what I don't know if I was allowed to do it, but I was not chastised for doing it. In fact, Uncle Clay, who was one of the bigger guys, he said, "Well, brother, better you than me." Because I got dirty on that one. So his uniform doesn't get dirty, right? But my clothes got dirty. So he goes, "Oh, better you than me." And then all my friend did was took me home, and I changed clothes. But nothing was said. Not even the sergeant waited on that one. And he heard. I mean, it's a tight group. So he said, "Oh, you saw what Cam did? Knocked the guy on his ass." And the sergeant, "What?" And then they told him what happened. And, because by the time the sergeant gets there, he's arrested. He's arrested for drunk and disorderly. And we explained to him, you gotta go, you just go, you can spend the night in cell block. In the morning, you go see the judge. And he was cool with it. Drunk, but he was cool. And we got him up. And I remember, that was the first time we had to use leg irons on his wrists because his wrists were so huge. I mean, this guy was thick. He was big. But, yeah, that was being a policeman. Today, I don't know if that would be police brutality or something like that, But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we did today. I watch on YouTube the police and how tied, and their hands aren't only tied by the wise mouth of the suspects. It's because of the blessings of administration. Not even the department get your back. Look at Los Angeles, where they tell them, we will not enforce or we will not reinforce ICE federal officers. Hey, those are fellow officers, fellow law enforcement officers, and your bosses are telling you not to back them up. I mean, Minnesota, New York, they want to defund the police, but yet they want the police to protect them. And as I told him, and I was telling Sam, I told him, who would ever think the world would be like how it is, yeah? He goes, I don't know, shit, the thing flipped over, and he went, and like a lot of police officers, after they retire, see, in the police department, they don't take out for Social Security. Yeah, that's because you get a little bit more extra money. Okay, you get a retirement from the city, so you don't need Social Security. And you get, they can afford to pay you a little bit more to retain the officers. Yeah. So a lot of them, when they get out, they get a regular job. They work 10 more years because you can get out when you're 25, after 25 years. Say you're 18, you go into the police department. Okay? In 25 years, you're only 43. You can do a whole new career. Yeah, you could do a whole new career, and a lot of them do. They go into private law enforcement, security work. How many? I know that they became the chiefs of security for hotels. They went to what Securitas. It's anyway. That was the company that handled the um, LEOs, the law enforcement officers at the airport. Yeah, and so a lot of them went into that, and they worked 10 more years. So now they're 50 in their 50s, and they qualify for Social Security. So when they come retirement age, they not only get their pension, they get their Social Security. They double dip. And some even go work for the federal government and they triple dip. Yeah, they ain't hurting. But, and that's what he was saying. He said, yeah, I know some guys, they went, in fact, I think one of my friends, just until a couple of years ago, was still working for the warrants division of the federal officers, federal law enforcement. Yeah, he would go and he would issue summons, issue. You see, if you get a summons from court, you have to be served by a duly appointed officer of the court. And a lot of these retired policemen, I mean, they're not looking for physical confrontation. You just walk up to you, is your name XYZ? Yes, sir. Sign here. You've been served. And that's all it is. You just receive a summons. If you want to run away, it's noted that, a contact was made, the recipient refused, and recipient left or fled. That's fine, because they think that just because they weren't served, it doesn't count. Well, you know what? You identifying yourself as, yeah, I'm XYZ, that counts as the serving. Okay? You didn't want to take it, but you were acknowledged of it. So you get one, you have a subpoena. And when they go to court, they cannot say I never received the subpoena, because it's documented on the subpoena itself. On the subpoena, well, I don't know about nowadays, but before, on the subpoena in the back was fill in the blanks. Date, time, and all that kind of place, location and stuff like that. And then a brief synopsis of what happened. You just say recipient served, or subpoena served. Just write on that, sign it, and then give it to him. And then on your copy, you just put the same thing, and then you turn it into the office. So they read in the back, okay, he was served. But if it says, recipient identified, recipient refused, recipient fled. So you can, and that's all you gotta put. Recipient identified, recipient refused, and recipient fled. 3 things. And you turn it in. So when they go to court, they look in the back, they go, hey, wait a minute. They caught you, they tried to serve you, and you refused it. You lose. You lose. And a lot of Divorce cases, especially with child custody, they try that crap. Especially if there's a custodial thing and the wife is, after the husband. The husbands think they can run away and, because they don't have the piece of paper, they're not liable. See what I mean about how things change? But they was doing that back in the 70s. We, I don't think we ever served a subpoena. That was usually done by the sheriff's office. But we did execute warrants, arrest warrants. And back then was like, you knew the guy. Hey, Joe, you get a warrant for your arrest. For what? And those days, we didn't we didn't have a computer. I don't know. You gotta go call the department, go find out, or go down there and go settle it, or go to the courts. Just walk inside and tell them you get a warrant, and a lot of them would. They would take care of it. Of course, you get the hardcores that wouldn't. Okay, just it's like a parking ticket. Just put it in the glove box. But yeah, Sam and I, we talked for a couple of hours. I said, "Oh, I gotta go." But yeah, he was really. He said, no sense you get upset, because we all saw it coming, and it's one of those things, it's coming, but you jump in a river. Remember jumping in a river? So I was telling him about this um, channel, and he said, "Oh," I told him, "Yeah, but I got and I'm on page 81. I got 80 pages already." He goes, "What do you mean 80 pages?" So I tell him each week I put out a new page. I call it a page because I'm making a book. One day somebody is going to read my book, I hope. But so I gave him a card and everything, and he's grandpa now. Yeah, he had he had two girls, and he's got six grandchildren or something, and one great grandchild coming in. I mean, geez, Sammy gotta be close to 80, pushing 80. Because those are the days, when those days, I was like 16, and the policemen were in their mid 20s, mid to later 20s. Yeah. So, they're about 10 years older than me, and so they're in the 80s. They're pushing 80. So he's going to be a great grandfather. But he was doing good, and wife's doing good. Everybody, everybody's still yet. And then we were talking about other things like Vegas, how Vegas changed. I had to put in that plug. It's the more people I see, especially we used to go to Vegas. Oh, that's all they do is complain. They need another place. I told them, well, try go to the beach. They go, that's no fun. I tell them, so go, traveling. And a lot of them, a lot of them are going to Japan. Yeah, they don't want to go cruises because all the positive reputation of cruises, right? You get sick and stuff like that. Poseidon Adventure, the boat get hit on tidal wave. No, but yeah, things to do. But yeah, that's my spiel for the police department. I mean, they just have no respect. People got no respect, but how can you blame them, right? Because the courts don't respect them, the government don't respect them, the politicians don't respect them, but they expect them to do their job. How do and they say drugs are illegal. They're legalizing marijuana because all these guys must be eating the bong. All these judges and everything, they gotta be hitting that pipe. It's just changing, and not changing for the better. It's not changing for the better, folks. Well, another thing I want to tell you: get out and vote. Get Even if you think your vote don't count, just get out and vote. Who knows? Maybe your ballot may actually get to the counting office. Who knows? But at least you tried. At least you cannot say, well, I didn't vote for him, and they're gonna say, well, you voted. No, then shut up. If you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. get out and vote, and tell your friends to get out and vote. And if they don't like what's going on, then just vote against it. Vote them down. You know, eventually, I'm hoping people wisen up. Our Republican Party is picking up some momentum, but because the Republicans are almost as dirty as the Democrats, people don't, you know, why jump in this cesspool to that cesspool? No, they're looking for something. Maybe we need a third party. But then even the third party, soon as the money comes in, wipe them out. So much for that. The cesspool just flows. You know? But anyway, I hope you guys have a good week. Respect the cop. Just go up to him and just say, officer, good morning, officer. Thank you. Just tell them that. Thank you. They're gonna feel so much better. I usually tell them be safe. Tell them, oh brother, be safe out there. Watch out. Oh yeah, thank you, uncle. I know all these young kids call me uncle. But when you do that, you're showing respect to them. You're showing that you appreciate them, and that's all they want. Just a little bit of appreciation. Don't tell them a joke, cause then they'll check you up on psyche eval. What's wrong? This guy think he's funny. But just tell them, good morning, officer. Have a great day. Thank you. That's all. 2 words. Thank you. Do it. And you'll feel better too. Yeah, you will. But anyway, like I said, you guys have a great week. Nothing coming up really. But we'll see what next week goes. And until then, hui ho, ma'alama pono. And always, from me to you, thank you. Oh yeah, like, subscribe, tell your friends, leave questions. The same plea. I'm hungry, feed me. But hui ho, ma'alama pono. And always, aloha. I'll see you next week. I love you. Bye-bye.